It was late. The kind of night when doors stay closed and hearts stay guarded. A powerful man stood behind his door, certain that nothing unexpected could touch his life anymore. Then came a soft knock. Not loud. Not desperate. Just steady. When he opened the door, he did not see fear or anger. He saw a little girl standing alone in the cold, holding herself together with quiet strength. She asked a simple question, one he had not prepared an answer for. Before he could speak, she looked up and said softly, "You do not have to. I already know." Those words stopped him. Not because they were dramatic, but because they carried a lifetime of understanding no child should have. What did she know? Why did she sound so certain? And why did that single sentence begin to unravel everything he believed about control, kindness, and what it truly means to open a door? Stay with this story because what happens next will touch the deepest part of your heart. The knock came softly, almost as if it were unsure it deserved to be heard. Inside the large, quiet house, Michael sat alone, the glow of city lights reflecting off polished glass and empty walls. He was used to silence. He had built his life around it. Silence meant control. Silence meant nothing could surprise him anymore. The sound came again, gentle but steady. Michael frowned. No one ever came unannounced. His security system showed nothing unusual, yet something urged him to stand. When he opened the door, cold air rushed in, carrying snow and a stillness that felt heavier than the night itself. A little girl stood on the porch. She was small, wrapped in a thin red dress that did nothing to fight the winter air. Snow clung to her shoes. Her knitted hat sat low, barely hiding hair damp from melted flakes. She did not cry. She did not beg. She simply looked up at him with eyes far too calm for someone her age. Michael felt something tighten in his chest. Children did not appear at doors like this. Not alone. Not this late. "I just wanted to ask something," she said quietly, her voice steady but careful. Her hands twisted the fabric of her sleeves, as if she was holding herself together. "But you do not have to answer." Michael opened his mouth, unsure what he planned to say. He had dealt with boardrooms, pressure, risk. This felt different. Before a single word left him, she spoke again. "I know." The word landed between them, heavy and final. He studied her face, the faint redness on her cheeks, the way she stood as if prepared to hear no and walk away without complaint. It unsettled him more than fear ever could. Children were supposed to hope loudly. This one seemed to hope quietly, as if hoping too much had already taught her a painful lesson. The wind brushed past her and she shivered just slightly. Michael noticed. He stepped back a fraction, warmth spilling onto the porch. The girl noticed too, though she did not move. For the first time in years, Michael felt the strange sense that this moment was not accidental. That this small knock was about to change something he had kept locked for a very long time. Michael stayed in the doorway, one hand still resting against the doorframe, as if moving might break something fragile in the air between them. The girl did not step forward. She waited, patient in a way that felt practiced. Snow continued to fall behind her, soft and endless, as though the world had narrowed to this porch and this pause. "Why are you here alone?" he asked finally, keeping his voice low. She looked down at her shoes, scuffed and damp, then back up at him. "I tried other houses," she said. Lights were on, but no one opened. There was no bitterness in her tone. Just a simple statement of fact. A quiet unease crept through him. "And you chose this one." She nodded. It looked warm. The answer caught him off guard. Not the house, not the size, not the gates. Warm. He glanced behind him at the wide hallway and empty rooms that echoed even when he breathed. Warm was not a word anyone had ever used for his home. "You should not be outside this late," he said. "I know," she replied immediately, as if she had been expecting that. "That is why I came now. Before it got colder." Her logic was calm and unsettling. Michael asked where she was supposed to be. She hesitated, her fingers tightening again. "Somewhere else," she said. "But they were talking about sending me away. To a place with many beds and many rules." The way she said it made it clear she had listened from corners and doorways, collecting truths adults thought she could not understand. "So I left," she added softly. "I did not want to be a problem." Those words struck harder than any accusation. A child should never describe herself that way. Michael looked past her once more, down the empty street. No cars. No footsteps. No one calling her name. A choice pressed against him, heavy and immediate. Call someone. Close the door. Do what was expected. The girl watched his face closely, as if reading the decision before it formed. "You really do not have to," she said again gently. "I already know how this goes." Something in her certainty made his breath catch. For the first time, he wondered what it had taken for a child to sound so sure of being turned away. The door remained open, but neither of them moved. Cold air drifted inside, mixing with the quiet warmth of the house, creating a tension that felt almost visible. Michael noticed how the girl kept her feet planted just beyond the threshold, as if crossing it required permission she did not expect to receive. "What do you know?" he asked gently. She blinked, surprised by the question, then answered with honesty that felt older than her years. "I know when people decide no before they say it." The words settled slowly, heavy with meaning. Michael had spent his life reading expressions, negotiating outcomes before meetings even began. Yet hearing it from a child unsettled him deeply. She looked up at him again, studying his eyes, his hands, the way he stood as if collecting signs. "My teacher used to smile like you," she said quietly. "Right before she told me I would be fine somewhere else." Michael swallowed. Somewhere else. The phrase echoed inside him. He realized the girl had learned to measure kindness by its limits. "How long have you been walking?" he asked. She shrugged. "Long enough for my legs to stop hurting." That answer alone told him more than he wanted to know. He noticed the faint tremble in her shoulders, controlled but real. She was cold, tired, and still standing because she believed she had to. "I can wait," she added quickly, mistaking his silence. "I always do." Michael felt something crack in the careful order of his thoughts. Waiting was something adults asked of children too often, usually while deciding their future without them. He knelt slightly so he would not loom over her. "What is your name?" he asked. "Lily," she said. "Lily," he repeated, grounding himself in the sound. "No one is coming to look for you tonight, are they?" She shook her head slowly. "They think I am asleep." The truth of it landed painfully. A child missing and no one looking yet. Michael stood again, his mind racing through possibilities, rules, consequences. Yet the weight of Lily standing there quietly outweighed every calculation. He stepped aside, opening the door wider. Warm air flowed around her legs. She noticed immediately, her shoulders loosening just a little, though she still did not step in. "You do not have to," she said once more, softer now. "I know," he replied. And in that moment, both of them understood that something had already changed, even before the first step was taken. Lily crossed the doorway slowly, as if the floor itself might disappear beneath her feet. The warmth wrapped around her at once, sharp and overwhelming after the cold, making her pause just inside the entrance. She hugged her arms to her chest, blinking as feeling returned to her fingers. Michael closed the door behind her, and the quiet of the house settled in, deep and unfamiliar. She looked around with careful eyes, taking in the wide space, the soft lights, the absence of noise. Instead of excitement, her expression held caution. As if she had learned that comfort could be taken away without warning. "You can sit if you want," Michael said. Lily nodded and chose the edge of the couch, keeping her feet tucked beneath her dress. She did not lean back. She did not touch the cushions. She sat ready, prepared to stand at the first sign of change. Michael noticed every detail. The way she held herself told a story she had not spoken yet. He brought her a cup of something warm. She wrapped both hands around it, breathing in the steam before taking a small sip. Her eyes widened slightly. "It is really warm," she said, more surprised than relieved. "That is the point," he replied quietly. The room fell into silence again. Lily stared at the cup as if it were proof of something fragile. After a moment she spoke, her voice steady but low. "People are usually kind at first." Michael felt the words settle slowly. "And after?" he asked. "They decide how much kindness they can afford," she answered. "Sometimes it runs out." The honesty of it caught him off guard. He realized she was not asking for promises. She was preparing herself for limits. "Why did you choose my house?" he asked. She thought carefully before answering. "Because the light stayed on." He followed her gaze toward the hallway where lamps glowed softly. He had left them on out of habit, never considering what they might mean to someone outside. "I thought if someone leaves a light on," Lily continued, "they might not mind sharing it." Michael sat across from her, feeling the weight of her words press against his chest. This was not just about warmth. It was about being seen. About being allowed to exist without apology. She lifted her eyes to his again. "I will not stay long," she said. "I promise." For the first time, Michael wondered why a child felt the need to promise anything at all. Michael sat quietly, letting the space between them breathe. Lily's words lingered in the room, heavier than the silence that followed. He had spent years making decisions quickly, confidently, never doubting his authority. Yet now he found himself choosing every word with care. "You do not have to promise anything," he said at last. She looked up, surprised. "Everyone asks for promises," she replied. "They say it makes things easier." "For who?" he asked. She did not answer right away. Instead, she took another small sip from the cup, her hand steadier now. "For grown-ups," she said finally. The truth of it struck him deeply. He leaned forward slightly. "What happened tonight?" he asked. "Before you came here." Lily's gaze drifted to the window where snow continued to fall. "They were talking in the kitchen," she said. "They thought I was busy coloring." Her voice stayed calm, but her fingers tightened around the cup. "They said I needed a place with more structure. With people trained to help." "Did they ask you what you wanted?" Michael asked. She shook her head. "Kids do not get asked much." A heavy pause followed. Michael felt the weight of his empty house press in on him. Rooms meant for guests that never came. Dinners eaten alone. Success measured in numbers that had never filled the quiet. "You left because you were afraid," he said gently. She shook her head again. "I left because I was sure." "Sure of what?" he asked. "That I would disappear there," she said softly. "I did not want to become someone people forgot." The words settled into him like a slow ache. He realized then that Lily was not running from rules or discipline. She was running toward being known. "You are not invisible here," he said without thinking. Her eyes searched his face, cautious and hopeful at the same time. "For how long?" she asked. He hesitated, not because he did not care, but because he cared enough to be honest. "Long enough to figure out what comes next," he said. Lily nodded, accepting the answer as it was. She leaned back just slightly, the tension in her shoulders easing. And in that small shift, Michael understood that the hardest promises were not spoken aloud, but proven in what came after. Morning arrived quietly, slipping through the windows in soft gold light. Lily woke slowly, confused at first by the warmth around her. The blanket rested gently on her shoulders, and for a moment she stayed still, afraid that moving might end whatever this was. When nothing changed, she sat up and looked around. The house no longer felt large and distant. It felt calm. Michael was already awake, standing in the kitchen, watching the steam rise from a pan. He heard her footsteps and turned. "Good morning," he said as naturally as if she had always been there. She hesitated. "I did not mean to sleep so long." "That is what nights are for," he replied. She studied his face carefully, searching for signs of regret or urgency. Finding none, she relaxed. They ate together at the table, sunlight warming the room. Lily talked about school, about drawing, about small things she liked. Michael listened, really listened, realizing how long it had been since he had shared a morning with someone else. Later he made a few phone calls. Not rushed. Not cold. Calls filled with intention and care. Lily sat nearby, coloring quietly, glancing up now and then. He never spoke over her head. When he finished, he knelt beside her. "No one is sending you away today," he said. "And you will not be forgotten." Her breath caught just slightly. "Does that mean I can stay?" she asked. "It means you are not alone anymore," he answered. That was enough. Lily smiled fully for the first time, a smile that reached her eyes and stayed. Michael felt something inside him settle, a sense of purpose he had not known was missing. The house filled with small sounds that day. Laughter. Footsteps. Life. And as the light faded that evening, both of them understood that the door had not only opened once. It had opened into a future where warmth was shared, and hope no longer had to wait quietly outside.